Showing off your lovely legs today.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, you can see that.
Couldn't change it.
Welcome
yet.
everyone to the Public Works Committee meeting. First order of business is approved minutes of the previous meeting. Mr. Bruno on the motion. Mr. Bean on second. Any discussion? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carried. Thank you. All right, without objection, we'll start with Parks and Rec.
Yes,
With Parks and Recreation, and Kevin, what do we have in front of us here?
I'll turn it over to Dean to talk about the action agenda items.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item on the agenda is a request to apply for a grant application with Pearsall Foundation. We've done this in the past. It'll be for live specimens, public programs, and it's for $2,800.
We have a motion to apply for a grant. Mr. Bruno, the motion to approve. Mr. Mayday on the second, discussion.
That's good.
There being none, ready for the question. All those in favor of applying for the $2,800 grant signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Second item, sir, is to apply for OCTAX from the local municipality up at Apiana Farm. That is used for hobby and special interest programs. It's very successful, ongoing, same amount. We wish to apply for that again as well.
Okay, this is a motion to apply for occupancy tax for Apiana Farm.
Through the town of Bolton.
The town of Bolton.
Through the town.
This defeats this one. Why don't we?
Yeah.
Mr. Bruno on the motion.
What, 2008?
Mayday on the second. Discussion.
Yeah, how much are they requesting?
$2,500.
2,500?
Yep, we've done this for several years, and it's for special interest, live specimens, birds of prey, et cetera.
You're asking for the town of Bolton to give you this? Why would we be entertaining that then?
Because we have to apply.
We
through the
apply
town of
through-
Walton.
I have to ask permission to
Oh, okay.
acquire that
Yeah.
funding. Sir. Makes sense.
They really.
Well, no, as long as it
they
comes from
really
Bolton, I have no
enjoy
problem.
Be a lot of pleasure.
I would go for more.
Yeah. Ask him for more.
Just saying.
Right then,
Oh.
on the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay, and just to recite what the county attorney did at the last meeting, when we apply for these grants, it also includes the authorization for the chairman to sign for the grant. To accept. But there are agreements. Third item, Dean?
Yes, last item is to request to accept a donation from the Friends of. They got us some Adirondack chairs and a table for our viewing platform with a deck over the wetland.
Right.
Yes,
We have a motion to accept the donation from the Friends of Up Beyond the Farm. Mr. Strainer, Mr. Merlino on the second. Any discussion?
I think it's great.
This was a not-for-profit that was formed some years back that was fundraising and does good things for Up Beyond. Okay. All those in favor of accepting the donation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Anything else, Dean?
yes,
Well, go ahead. You want me to start? Yeah,
Go
next
ahead.
item we have on there we're under information for discussion and review. The first one is I have Hal Raven here from Saratoga Rail, and he's going to talk about the toy train to Hadley Station. He's requesting permission to use the rail, and I will let Hal speak.
Good morning, Hal Raven, president and owner of Saratoga Corinth and Hudson Railway. We operate the scenic railway out of Corinth, running down towards Saratoga and Greenfield. We've come up 2 years now for the Maple and April Festival, clearing the tracks and doing some work up there to keep the line open as far as Hadley and Lake Luzerne, and that's been pretty successful. We were approached by Operation Toy Train. They're a non-for-profit group down in Port Jarvis that runs this train at various locations throughout the Northeast with their equipment and other host railroads equipment to collect toys. It makes multiple stops collecting toys that are distributed to communities, working with the Marine Corps or local organizations to distribute toys, to families and children in need around Christmas time. They approached us and asked us if we would be interested in hosting them. We agreed to, and we are donating our staff, crew, and trains to be able to do it. It will, we'll start down towards Saratoga. We'll make a stop in Greenfield, a stop in Corinth. And we're asking if Warren County would let us continue up the line to Hadley, where we would make a stop there. And the toys that are collected at each of the stops are donated back to those communities locally to be given out however that town or organization sees fit. I was talking with the supervisor about Lake Luzerne collecting the toys. And we can distribute them between Hadley and Lake Luzerne. So the toys that are collected there get distributed in those locations. It's a non-revenue train. It's volunteers and staff that operate it. We'll have a band on board. It'll be a lot like the Canadian Pacific Christmas train that comes up, decorated with lights. Santa Claus will be on board. Makes about an hour stop or a little bit longer in each location. We'll have music playing on the open air flat car. People come, they see it, they bring toys, they get their picture with Santa and things like that. So it's a really great community event that we're really excited to participate in this year. And we were hoping to include Warren County in this event. So we would just be looking for access, probably a week or two in advance, so we could go up, cut some brush, get everything reactivated, make sure the line is in good operating shape, and then it's essentially a one afternoon a day that we would go up, make the stop there, collect toys, distribute them, and then head back to Corinth with the train. So
Is this something, Kevin, that you already have permits?
Yeah, so what we do is we do a facilities use permit for them for the use of the train, similar to what we do for if one of the marathons runs on the bike path, we use a facilities use permit. So I think the facility use permit is already filled out.
We have it, send a copy. Yep.
Yep,
to you.
and then we have the insurance as well for it.
We will
Yep,
have it,
So,
yep.
so that's in place.
Yeah, November 16th is the date of this event. So we have.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great.
November
It's just
November
sounds like a
16th, correct.
Wonderful idea, wonderful holiday initiative.
yeah, we're really excited to do it, and we wanted to, give out Warren County the chance to do it. There was talk about trying to extend it farther into Stony Creek and things like that, but because of the brush conditions, it's just not passable. We just really can't get the train passable past Hadley. We had done a lot of work to get that open and clear, so we were able to get to Hadley in this type of a time frame. But it's something that if this works well, they're going to be interested in doing with us, year after year, and would love to be able to keep Warren County involved in this.
This is the first year.
Yes.
Yeah, Gene?
Yeah, I'd really like to make a motion to move this ahead. I happened to be on the train, not even about 2 weeks ago. Lake George Chamber of Commerce had their business meeting at their station, and there was food and everything. Then we got on a train and take a ride. I'll tell you what, these guys run a great operation. If you haven't been on their train, you'd be impressed what they did compared to what we used to have. And if any ever down in the future, get those tracks cleared and get them to go up further, up to maybe 1,000 acres or maybe further, be a great asset to the communities like Hadley, Luzerne, and well, they get already in Corinth, but up, the area of all the western towns. So
We appreciate that, and thank you very much.
Well,
Thank you.
we don't need a motion per se, but without objection, for Mr. Merlino's strong recommendation, is everyone in concert on this?
Yes.
Okay, good,
thank you.
good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming down.
And thank you.
I'll turn it over to the remainder of the board for Dean.
Back to Dean.
Yes,
Dean,
sir.
You're on next.
I will scoot this along, sir. Just a quick reminder, in your packet was the poster for the trunk or treat event that will be held at Up Yonder Farm. Again, I won't go on at great length, but this event brings 800 people to Bolton Landing for the one night. It is a free event to the public, and it's well received, and donations are well received as well. So
So that will be October 26th from 3 to 5 PM. And we always look for volunteers to help us park cars, similar to what we just did at the Balloon Fest.
Now, I know I think
Oh,
the
no,
traffic,
right.
your traffic plan last year was a better traffic plan.
It was.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
And you'll be doing the
Removed
same.
everything from the main street and shuttled from the parking lot at Veterans.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Also, apologize, also in your packets, a quick photo. We paved another section of the bikeway from the Fort George right down at Welcome to Lake George, Fort George for about 700 feet to utilize the funding this year. It went well. That section gets beat up. It has in years past when we've had a lot of snow with snowmobiles and that, so it was a good investment to clean that up and give a nice facelift to that section of the bikeway. Moving down the list, if you don't mind, so we are at the hatchery. We've been air stocking. Last week, we took some flights with the state out to Paseco, Indian Lake. And there's a third one that escapes my brain momentarily, but we're getting our brook trout out, and this week we should be flying out of Warrensburg to finish a lot of the rest of the local areas for stocking by helicopter. So just so you know, our flyouts are going well, and that's good. Next item on the agenda is just wanted to say thank you. I know several supervisors were at the opening of our disc golf 1 year ago on the 15th of September. Well received. We get about 600 people a year. It's on UDisc. If you're a discer, I'm learning how to disc golf. I didn't know what to do. I showed up with a world-class Frisbee and I got laughed at a little bit, but just showed my age. But that good reviews online for it, and it's going well. So the very last item on, or at least for me, is the Swede fire tower. You see in your packet, there's a photo. We had to replace one of the tower panels. I don't believe it was on since I jumped on board. We were able to allocate one almost a year ago, and we secured it, got it installed, and installed a couple interpretive panels. And I would like to just do a quick shout out to the ladies at GIS, Sarah and Amanda, who helped out quite a bit with that viewscape of all the mountains. So we have a nice educational component in that tower. And there's some volunteers that have gotten involved, and the New York State Volunteer Fire Tower Association has ample volunteers. We look forward to actually getting some paint on that tower next season.
Where's this tower?
Swede
it
Tower's
eight?
on Route 8. Yep, on the way.
Okay,
in.
that's the one we just
Yeah.
did the way for.
Jane,
Yeah, that was one thing at the Octax meeting. We lease a piece of land that gets us to the tower. And it was brought up at the Octax meeting. Maybe we should make a decision and try to purchase that land instead of keep. Then two thousand, I think it's $2,600.
At least across.
Yeah,
to get to
at
it.
least.
paper company, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's-
just a quick
They do.
kind of reminder of that we do own the property that the tower is on. We do not lease that property. The property that we lease is from Adirondack Line Timber, and that's to provide us the access to get to the tower.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that they'd sell it because that's part of a very large parcel of land.
Just brought up and I wanted
Yeah.
to bring it up.
Who's the owner?
Adirondack Line Timber.
Yeah.
So that's a nonprofit group.
Corporation.
Yeah, it's
Corporation, yeah.
That's a lot of hunting camps.
That's, so they lease a lot of the property around that. In fact, we have to end the use of the trail December 15th, is it September?
From November 1 through October.
No, it's not.
Excuse me. Yeah, no. September 10th, December 16th.
Yeah,
September 10th.
September 10th through December 16th because of hunting season, because all the property around there that they lease camps and such to hunters to use that property. So that's the reason that we stopped access to the trail at that point.
Anything else? Dean,
Just item number 7.
The last item we have on there is our budget. So in your packages, I kind of put a summary of the 2025 budget in there, and although all my divisions are on there, you can skip down to DPW Parks and Rec. We kind of go through it real quick. There certainly is an increase in repair and maintenance of building and property for Parks and Rec because of a roof replacement. There was a large increase in the road and bridge materials also for the parking lot at the hatchery as well. At Up Yonder Farm, basically that remains flat. The only increase is due to insurance, but the county doesn't put necessarily money into that. It's all covered by the trust. Up Yonder bed tax, there's a slight minor increase. Snowmobile grant that we have has remained flat, and the railroad has a slight increase in contracts. And we had under my DPW equipment budget, we certainly have a little bit of an increase for equipment, but one of those pieces or items that we have for an equipment increase is to buy high rail gear for one of Dean's trucks so that we have more access to the rail to make sure that we maintain or at least understand, as I talked about it, the brush as well as the almost probably 500 culverts on that rail that we need to keep clear. So in my equipment budget is high rail gear to go on one of Dean's trucks. And that's the budget for Parks and Rec.
Yeah, just in case anybody missed it, state the number of culverts again.
Over 500 on that rail. And there's 1,600 in the county on roads.
Thank you, Dean.
Yes, sir.
Next item, Kevin?
We will move into solid waste next.
Solid waste.
Yeah, why don't you pass these out? So Scott and I are gonna kind of tag team with this. The first two I'll hit on real quick are to request new contracts. The first one is to request a new contract for disposal services related to municipal solid waste and C&D. And then the second contract is for the disposal services related to recyclables. The first one would be with Waste Management, and the second one would be County Waste and Recycling, which is also Ace Carding.
So we're gonna put these both together.
It's up to you guys, yeah.
It was a pleasure to committee member.
Like to, we take 1 and 2 together.
Motion to approve 1 and 2. Is there a second to that motion? Mayday, thank you. Discussion? There being none, we're ready for the question. All those in favor of approving items 1 and 2 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So 3, 4, 5, and 6, Scott and I will kind of tag team these a little bit. So the first one that you guys just approved for the C&D and municipal solid waste, and then for the recyclables, is just the tipping fees that is going to be basically with the county's fee now, because we are gonna start as of January 1st hauling for the town. So as we get down to 6, which would be establishing an MOU or a new contract with all the towns in Warren County to participate with the hauling. The process, and I'm gonna let the county attorneys put together the contract with each one of the towns, but it would be for us to haul at a rate that Scott or Dean handed out to all of you, kind of what the rate would be. And I think there's a comparison to what you're currently paying and then what you'll pay for the county. But this contract will cover the cost of us hauling, and we will also pay for the tipping fees, and then we will invoice each of the towns for their hauling. So I guess I will start with the first one. The first one on number 3 is to create a new position. This is to create a position of the solid waste supervisor for the county to perform town hauling. I went through Jackie in HR and civil service to come up with the position. These positions I'm only bringing now, as opposed to bringing January 1st or doing it through the budget process, because as of January 1st, we would start hauling for the town. So I need to at least get somebody in here a month in advance to train, to make sure that everybody's on board as to what we're going to do. So that'll give them, so I expect that they would hire these as of December 1st. And then between Scott and our other individual in that department, they would get these individuals trained as to how we're gonna do the hauling, where the routes are gonna be, who's gonna get picked up at what time. And it all depends. Scott's had numerous discussions with the towns, transportations, as to how this would work. So that would be the reason for me creating this position. And the next position down is to create a part-time position of an MEO medium, and that's again, to bring them on as of December 1st, so we can get them trained before the start of the new year.
What's the committee's desire? I mean, I think that you approve 1, you really approve all here. I don't think there's I don't think you leave anything behind. I mean, are they gonna do this or we're
Well,
not, right?
yeah.
But Kevin, go ahead.
And I know that Supervisor Bruno, I just wanted, Scott wants to, when we're gonna transfer some money to cover those positions for that month. And I have money in my budget to be able to do that, but I want Scott to kind of get at the last one, is talk about the package that was handed out by Dean that talks about the rates and the savings and such that each one of the towns will see. So if
Okay.
you allow to have Scott kind of go through that.
Yeah, so these are the proposed hauling costs broken out by town and by commodity. So when we built the costs, we tried to build it to break even, basically, the expense to the county. So the expenses for the county included the cost of the new trucks, broken up over 10 years, maintenance, fuel, those salaries of the new positions that I just proposed. And that came to roughly about $250,000 to run the hauling operation for the year. And that was built upon 2023 stats from all the town transfer stations. So we looked at the total mileage covered in 2023 and used that to build the projections moving forward. That put the cost at about $2.76 per mile. And then on the second and third page, you'll see each commodity. On the left side for 2024, you'll see what our hauling cost was for waste management. And then the next column was that projection. And it's based on the destinations for all the commodities. Pretty much across the board, it will be a savings in hauling. The one outlier was for recyclables. For Ridge Road, Queensbury Recyclables, I'm sorry, for Luzerne Road, Queensbury Recyclables, it went up 13%. But when you take that in with the Ridge Road, it's still a decrease of 23% for Queensbury. So you'll see one kind of rate that went up, but if you look at it together with the other Queensbury transfer station, it's still an overall decrease for all the towns.
Where is the increase? I'm sorry.
So it's
I see
hauling.
it. I got it, thank you.
Well, they Queensbury though, that's also Glen Falls too. These are,
The two
Yeah.
Queensbury, yeah.
so they lost to the towns or to the county?
So this is what we would be proposing are the costs per haul for each town that Warren County would.
Yeah, this is being set up, Mr. Bruno, this is being set up like an enterprise fund, I guess the way to say it, that if it costs X, then the revenue has to pay for X. Am I saying that?
Yeah, it was just, so again, to go back to the first two resolutions, the new contracts for the disposal. We're not charging you anymore. The disposal rate is what the bid came in at, so that's what each town would pay as that disposal rate. Whether it's for municipal solid waste, C&D, or recyclables. As Scott just said, the rates that we're just showing you is kind of comparison of what you're currently paying now to what it will be in this year. But the bottom line is it'll be $2.76 per mile for each one of the towns. So, and we figured out the mileage for each one of the towns to run to each one of the facilities. So that's what they'll be paying as their hauling rate. So when we invoice them, we will invoice them for the tipping fee, which is the bid, that's the first two. And then we'll be hauling them at the $2.76 per mile for the hauling.
Thank you.
And then there's the sale of the disposables, that I think we're gonna be much better at, than in multiple towns trying to do it and trying to keep up with it. We have partners that we may be entering into business with that are going to help us with that. And you might want to talk about it. My point here is that I think that it's going to allow us to better standardizing and better perform standardize the recycling program amongst all the different towns. Some candidly do a better job than others. Some need to do something perhaps that they're not presently doing. And so I think that it's a big plus also in terms of the finding the markets. You might want to talk about that.
Go ahead.
Just one other benefit is oversight on inventory of the containers. So currently, waste management's the hauler, the containers move around. We do inventory each year, there tends to be some missing bins because of this movement. But if we're hauling, we're gonna have much better kind of oversight on inventory of the bins that we control.
So this looks like it's more efficient. And
Cost savings to everybody.
Yeah.
Huge cost savings.
Yeah, we're experiencing also the privates are having a difficult time also finding drivers and responding.
Good God.
And, I don't want to say on demand. I'm not sure anyone can really respond completely on demand, but in a timely fashion. So we have had containers that we've had to close up because we can't take anymore. And,
It'll also improve, I think, as you know, when you're taking all this stuff together and looking for a market. Purchase or whatever, I think you're better off.
Economy of skills.
Yeah. economies.
So certainly I want to add on to that. We haven't gotten to having that recyclable facility yet. So I don't want to put in anybody's heads that we're doing that right now. In the future, that's the next step. Right now, we're just hauling to the facilities that accept the recyclables currently. So that's what we'll be doing. We don't have that market yet because certainly didn't get that grant that we applied for last year, which would have provided us the facility in Lake George. We're still looking, Scott is still looking for other opportunities for us to get some grant funding, so we're able to do that. So that's not part of this yet,
Right.
but in the future, eventually, yes.
well, I mean, and let's face it, kudos to all the people that have been involved in this, certainly the members of this committee and that have been working on this now. We've been working on this now for some time. As you know, along with solid waste, there's been the recyclable and our partners in this, that have really, I think, part of an advisory group that you sit on that have, I think, really encouraged this. And the other thing it's going to do is going to give us cohesive data, reliable, standardized, cohesive data for future decision making. This is changing, going to change a lot going forward, and I think we're just better positioned. The board, I think, correctly to your recommendation, Mr. Hajos, created and hired a position of solid waste administrator to begin to help us put this program together. And I think that we're, right on the cusp now of implementing come what, January 1, right? Come January 1 and now we can, focus on solid waste and the things that we need to do on solid waste to hopefully reduce cost and all of this, of course, all helps the environment. I mean, let's not forget that. Mr. Molino.
I couldn't agree more with what you just said, and I'll add my 2 cents. Looking what I'm seeing here, this is a great option for the smaller towns.
God, yes.
We just can't afford to keep hauling out
Okay.
at the prices they've been raising every year. So I think this is a great job and looking forward to see the success.
Mr. Hajos.
The last thing I want to add is when Scott looked at all the hauling for all the towns and certainly in saving money, I would definitely ask all the towns to look at what they're taking in. I know some towns take in a lot of C&Ds, which, if you're taking it, I think the town of Queensbury, for example, they'll take 1 cubic yard of C&D. Anything above that, they tell all the contractors that bring in that C&D, go to one of these places to take C&D. That, there's a couple transfer stations that we have a significant amount of hauls, more so than Queensbury, you would think populated area would have the most hauls, but that's not the case. So I would look at how and what you're taking in, and specifically, I think it relates to C&D and where maybe you can change the amount that you take in and tell contractors that if they have a lot of material, to take it to these facilities themselves, whether it's Hiram Hollow or Green Ridge or someplace else to take that material.
I agree, and that's why I think helping to standardize the program throughout the county, I think, it may take us a while to do that. I know I wouldn't be surprised if we were one of those 2 or 3 that you mentioned, and you don't have to shake your head, Jess. And
I didn't even move my head.
but I think that the idea of
Okay.
trying
interesting.
to standardize this in a way, a reasonable way, like what you're saying, I think is going to help us at the local level too, to help bring these efficiencies about. Because these aren't always easy things to do, as you know. So,
They're not.
but kudos really to you gentlemen and in particular for staying with this and providing solid information to everyone. And
Just had a question. As far as, obviously being up north, where are there places for our guys? I'm sure we take in quite a bit of C&D.
They have to come south. I mean, the places to dump C and D is Hiram Hollow, Green Ridge. I mean, they're,
140.
yeah, out on 149 and 40. Yeah, that's the place you have to go. There is no places up there. I mean, that's a problem unless we go to Ticonderoga, but based on the bids that we have and the material we're taking, it's not going to Ticonderoga. We're not.
I just worry about stuff and on the side of the road or
Right.
wherever you can find
Yep.
the stuff, that's.
But maybe in those instances, and I would include myself with that concern, that maybe we can come up with a mousetrap whereby we can segregate that type of dumping apart from general residential dumping and have an approach that better reflects the volume and the cost associated with that disposal. And I think the county can be very helpful in that regard as well. But you're right, some communities have more opportunity and shorter hauling distances than maybe others, but maybe we can do it in a better way. And that's kind of a plug for, let me know what you think, right? Okay,
So the last thing I'll add is that, because I know we still have to approve all the resolutions, but the last resolution, I'll have the form of the MOU or contract with working with the county attorney's office to establish the proper form to be, used for all the counties, or I'm sorry, for all the towns within the county to use our hauling services.
right. So now we turn to the action items, Mr. Bruno.
We need a motion.
You can take
I
these one
move
at a
that
time.
we-
I don't know, can we, the county attorney, can all these be taken all at once?
Yeah.
What's that?
Like I say, I'd move that we take 3, 4, 5, and 6 together.
Okay, have we acted on 1 and 2 yet?
1 and 2, yes.
Okay, 3, 4, 5, 6, the motion from Mr. Bruno. Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Is there a second, Mr. Merlino? Thank you, Gene, and your comments as well. Motions to authorize 3, 4, 5, and 6. Any further discussion? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, everyone.
Money not.
Discussion items, and I'm gonna turn that back over to Scott for the working group update.
Yeah, so again, grateful to have this working group. We have, Adirondack Compost Education Council, we have Zero Waste Warren County, we have supervisors E2, Merlino, and Stroud on that working group committee. Specifically, we're looking at recyclables, compost. We submitted the bid for the compost pilot, which we won't know about until November, so we're kind of waiting for that. In advance of that, the working group is talking about, regardless of what happens, we want to do more outreach and education, based on just the idea that Warren County could probably save money, do some things that are better for the environment by getting food scraps out of the waste stream. So we're working on some kind of outreach and education opportunities prior to hopefully getting awarded the pilot for the spring. In addition, recyclables, it's a huge part of this. Waste management, the towns were paying $214 a ton to get rid of recyclables. Again, these materials theoretically should have value. Why are we paying, much more for them? Which, just to point your attention, in the new bid, Ace will be taking the recyclables and it's $90 a ton compared to Waste Management's $214 a ton. The only part of that is a downside is they're taking, so Ace is gonna take paper, cardboard, basically all the recyclables. The only area there that may be a loss is cardboard, because that fluctuated with the market. Sometimes we were paying as low as $60 a ton for the cardboard. Sometimes we're paying $120 a ton, so I don't think it'll be much different, but just to point out, the new bid, it's $90 a ton across the board. And then Replenish, we had a presentation by Replenish. They provided some preliminary data, costs and revenue based on some data I provided them. The working group recommended, that at a future DPW committee meeting, I present Replenish's initial data, so we can kind of take a step closer to that, to the idea of a centralized recyclables facility. In addition, we're looking at grant opportunities. I've been very fortunate to have the county planning office kind of support some of our grant initiatives, so I feel like we're moving in a good direction there as well.
Yeah, have you, had many discussions with the major private haulers, on that may be hauling in areas where they have to take their product to composting facilities because they're within so many miles of?
So we've started to, so with the food scrap law, once they're within, if a large generator is within 25 miles of a food scrap processing facility, they'll have to start kind of taking it to these facilities. I emailed the DEC, all of these large generators are already kind of submitting annual reports. So I was able to get all the annual reports. Price Chopper, Hannaford already do it with a company called AgriCycle. So this is, again, goes back to the side of this of getting better data. So we're getting data now from Hannaford and Price Chopper, so we can have a better idea of who's already kind of taking food scraps and processing those. So I don't have a lot to report there, just that we're making some kind of movement toward getting those players involved and kind of talking to them.
I mean, it would seem to me that if that type of machinery in part is already in place, that's a good thing. And that there isn't any reason why that couldn't be put in place here as well, right?
Agreed.
And then maybe we handle the market, the balance of the waste stream differently.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah.
In other words, that I suppose some of that, we might even be able to do legislatively, if you see what I'm saying.
Mhm.
In other words, but that was gonna require some dialogue with the private haulers that are presently hauling for the major producers of green waste for now. Because it seems to me, I mean, I don't want to pick a company, but if company A is having to take supermarket green waste to to separate and to a recycling facility that perhaps they own in some other county, what are their thoughts about doing something like that here, right?
Yeah, and then again, the hauling costs, if they are shipping it halfway across the state, obviously those hauling costs become pretty large compared to what they're doing.
Yeah, if they're going to, you're saying if they're going to a centralized facility.
Right.
In a major population area, I see what you're saying. Mhm. Well, we have some smaller composting companies. I would hope that you're plugging into them as well. I mean, in our area, that
Yes.
burgeoning, I guess is the way to say,
Adirondack Worm Farm,
Right.
they've been active and we're in communication with them, so they've been,
providing ideas on this.
yeah, definitely.
All right, very exciting, very exciting. Stay tuned again, right, guys?
Yeah, that's it.
Gals?
All right, the last item we have on there is, of course, the budget for solid waste and recycling, and you will see that this is a significant increase, but it's due to an increase in contracts for us to do the hauling, but it's also an increase in revenue so as Scott mentioned, it's basically to break even for us. This contracts that we're gonna have with the towns for hauling is not gonna cover the entire solid waste budget. We still had a budget previous to this, which was last year. It's about 244,000, but anything that we've added on for this year as far as expenses will be covered in the revenues that we get from the towns. And that's all I have.
All right. Next item, Kevin.
We are into public works agenda. So the first item we have up on the public works agenda is to apply for a grant. This is a Bridge New York grant agreement. This is basically the master agreement with DOT in Federal Highway for H-376 Hudson Street over Mill Creek Bridge in the town of Johnsburg.
Have a request to apply for a grant on the Bridge New York. Motion, Mr. Bruno on the second. Thank you. Any further discussion? Is Johnsburg applying under this program this time around?
We actually have a
Johnsburg
couple,
has a Bridge New York right now, yeah.
we have two that we've already approved and another two coming.
They've really been kicking your butt lately. haven't they?
He'll be giving me
Yeah.
those bridges afterwards.
Yeah, but we're gonna have to discuss the trade.
Yeah.
Well, and you have my complete support on that program, by the way of bridges. That's a much more efficient way to proceed. I'm sure, and I'm sure Johnsburg would agree with that. I mean, why not?
Depends on what we're looking at in trade. I mean, it's not gonna be for free. I know that for sure. We'll negotiate.
Right, we had a motion and a second. And I call the question. All those in favor of applying for the grant signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Next item.
Next item we have is an increased capital project, and this is the increase to that one that you just referred to, and this is for the preliminary engineering and right-of-way phases for that project.
Okay, motion made this forward. Bean, Mr. Bruno, thank you. The discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
The next one, I should have probably asked if you wanted to do all three of these. This is the contract with McFarland Johnson to perform the preliminary engineering and right-of-way for that same project.
Mr. Strainer, Mr. Bruno on the second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
The next item is a request for a new contract, and this is for periodic asbestos and lead consulting services. Ours had expired. We put it out to bid. They just got the bids in yesterday, so we will have the results for the board meeting, but it's to enter into a new contract with the lowest responsive bidder.
Mr. Merlino, Mr. Strainer on the second, and you'll have that to everybody before the board meeting.
They'll have it as part of the tap sheet as part of the board meeting.
Okay. Ready for the question? Then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Next item.
Next item is very similar. This is a new contract for professional surveyor services, and this again came in yesterday. We will have the tab sheets for the board meeting for who we would award it to, and it'd be a lowest responsive bidder, and we actually had 9 submittals for professional surveying services from consultants.
All right, then we're ready for the question. Just before, all of these have piggyback provisions from the
They
municipal.
absolutely do. Yep.
Just for the supervisors to be aware, all of these types of contracts with the county have piggyback provisions that you can access through these companies. In fact, you can provide a list. Didn't you provide us? I think you provided us.
I did provide a list, but I can
Provide
certainly.
a list, maybe get a list out to the municipalities on who we have these contracts with.
Do that.
All right, then, ready for the question? We don't have a motion. Can we have a motion? Mr. Strainer, thank you. Mr. Bruno on second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Next item.
Next item we have on there is a new contract with a contractor. I apologize, I'm trying to look it up right now. I think it's with Advanced Tree Service, and it's the contract for wood waste reduction, which is the tub grinder that we and all the towns can use it, but we use it at the Tony Pit in Warrensburg, which would take all the stumps and such that we have from storms, and we grind it all up, and the towns all have the ability to use it as well at their facilities.
Excellent. Have a motion on this, Mr. Strainer, Mr. Bean on the second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Next item, Kevin.
All right, we're in a discussion item. So the first one I'll start with is project updates. I have a significant amount of photos to hand out here. They are all our road construction projects, and then the first one is our Peaceville Valley Road, and that was one of our Culvert, New York projects. And the second one, you'll just see the footings that were just poured. And this is for the last of the emergency culvert replacements from the December storm, and this is up on Palisades Road. So I'll start with Supervisor Bruno to hand those out. And then we can get into the final item I have is the budget. And again, that same sheet that I handed out before to all of you, which kind of does a rundown of the budget. I will kind of go through.
Or is it all one?
Yeah, it's all one
Okay.
package total. Just give me 1 second to find my breakdown sheet. So for again, that breakdown sheet, the summary of my budget is it lists all my divisions. So I'll go down through it fairly quick. 1490 is DPW admin. It's fairly flat. 1626 is Westbrook parking lot. There's a slight increase due to replacement of meters. the McKay meters that we have out there, they're no longer being made, and there's a few of those meters that will need replacement. Beach Road parking lot remains flat, and I would just kind of give an FYI to everybody who isn't aware of it, is that the village keeps 75% of the parking lot sales up to $75,000 of the county's 25% as well, and that's to go to their the agreement we have with them to go to the wastewater treatment plant. 3310 is our traffic. There's a slight increase for guide rail supplies and striping contracts. There, I believe last year was $1,500 and $1,520 for striping on our roadways. This coming year, it'll be up to $1,630 per mile. So that's why there was an increase in there. Highway admin, which is the CHIPS, Pave New York, EWR and POP, that is to remain the same unless the governor does something more for us this year. But basically with the news that just came out with the MTA being significantly in jeopardy for the work that needs to be completed, construction work, I don't see us getting anything increase. In fact, we may lose some money in CHIPS this year. Engineering is relatively flat. Maintenance of road, there's a minimal increase with road and bridge material. Minimal increase in contracts due to the soil and water, entering into the contract with soil and water to do our MS4 program. In county roads, there's an increase in county roads from this past year, which was 5.3 million, and I'm requesting to 5.62 million next year, or 5.628. Remember, probably approximately 3.8 of that is, I believe, covered by CHIPS, Pave New York and POP and EWR. So the remainder would be county funding. 5142, we reduced salt this year in contracts by another almost $50,000 with our salt savings. Services to other governments, it basically remains the same. Transfers to capital project, there's an increase. And that's due to the local match for the federal aid projects, which is in the amount of $630,000. In machinery, there's an increase due to the equipment replacement, and one of those, as I talked about earlier, is the high rail gear for the truck on the rail, and then there's a minor decrease in the motor fuel farms. So that's for next year's budget.
I can't believe the cost of new equipment. When I first looked at the first state bid on that to today, it's just impressive. Tandem, what, 360?
Tandem's up to almost $300,000 for us right now, and that's because we are going with the live edge plows, and we are going with the stainless steel boxes, and we're hitting that $300,000 mark.
That piece for the train, for the rails, if you order it, how long is it gonna take for you to get it?
There doesn't seem, in fact, Hal Raven, when he was in here, was talking to me about, there's another company that they know that they get it put on smaller equipment as well, and he says they have it readily available. We're only asking for it for our truck. We don't think most of the companies that we talk to, Dan Smith talked to ahead of time, they have the equipment available.
Okay, all right. I just know that everything else is a
Yeah.
year or two out, so.
Yeah, it is like that for trucks. I can tell you right now, I still have yet to receive my 2022 tandems. They were sent to Viking Sieves, who does all the body work, in July, and they said 15 weeks at a minimum before they get done with getting all the body work and stuff done. Those are 22 trucks. So 22, 23, and we're now into 20, and we don't expect to see them until well into the winter season. So it's certainly has hurt us, because those are replacements for my frontline trucks.
Basically, that's 2 years, really,
It's more than 2 years. It'll
More
be
than
2.5
2
years.
more than 2 years, and it's interesting from a financing point of view, though, Frank, in terms of, I don't take too much time, but hear more, but if you're having to wait over 2 years, do you wait 2 years before you, because you might want to wait to decide how you're going to pay for it, right?
Bond.
In some cases, you might pay cash, some cases you might do a 5-year ban, and some cases might be part of a bigger situation, so.
Sure.
Kevin?
I was gonna add, I think we talked about in the budget meeting is moving forward in the future, we would look at doing a ban or bonding some equipment. Those, as the new budget season started as of January 22, Dan went, my shop manager went and ordered the trucks. When the new budget came out in 2023, Dan went and ordered the trucks. In the new budget season of 2024, in January, Dan went and ordered the trucks. So there, it's, you know, we encumber the money for the, we certainly don't pay them until we get the truck, but we encumber the money for the trucks, and we're beholden to the truck manufacturers. And the issue that's coming out now, and it's being discussed at the County Highway Superintendent's Associations, there's a stipulation on the vehicle manufacturers that they, for every 10 vehicles that they sell, such as a diesel vehicle, they have to be selling at least one electric vehicle. So what they're doing currently is they're trying to pass that on to us, saying, we've reached our 10 quota, so we need to sell an electric vehicle. We're having discussions with the governor's office right now at the county highway superintendent's level, and I think the town highway superintendents are as well, is that this pushing to have all of our medium and heavy duty equipment by 2035 as being electric vehicles is not realistic. There's not the infrastructure in place. Most manufacturers, are not even have developed these trucks yet. At a smaller scale they have, but certainly not at a tandem or single axle level they haven't yet. So the bottom line is I don't know if they're gonna push it. I mean, I think when California adopted their kind of push to move towards zero emission vehicles, New York just jumped on board and said, we'll do the same thing. And without somebody stopping and saying, wait a minute, can we do this at the time? And right now they can't.
Well, I mean, if anybody's paying any attention, I'm not sure if it's Bethlehem schools down outside of Albany. They bought a bunch of electric buses, and the vast majority of them have been in service more than they've been on the road. And that's a bus. We're not talking about a big truck. Yeah, I do not understand how this is even possible.
So
It doesn't make sense.
a lot of what the buses, there is some grant funding for them to be able to do that. There hasn't been any grant funding available yet to do the municipal vehicles. But schools have gotten grant funding to be able to do this. The problem is those buses that they used to purchase for $50,000,
Mhm.
maybe $80,000 are now costing them $300,000 per bus.
Yeah,
So
and-
take a look at a school,
Unreliable.
so take a look at a school like Queensbury who has
Unreliable.
25, 30 buses. I'm not sure how.
How do you justify that kind of money when it's gonna be in the shop more than it's gonna be on the road? It's very hard for me to understand.
You don't have to justify it if you sit in the assembly or the senate or the governor's office. It's
Doesn't
gotta
make any
enter
sense.
into their vocabulary.
There certainly was a pilot program that was done, I want to say it was the beginning of last winter, where New York City, they used their waste vehicles to plow roads. They did a pilot program. They bought 15 of these, some manufacturer had these waste trucks that they put plows on. And they could go out and use them for 1 hour at a time. And I can tell you with the routes that I have in my plowing, that will not work unless you guys tell me that I can start closing roads, because I won't be able to get to them.
I think in terms of this committee and the things that, we can do here that can make a difference, I think that what we're doing here with recyclables and hopefully what we're gonna do with green waste and hopefully what we're gonna do consolidating the bridges, I think those are the things that we can do to have significant impact. And I think there's more perhaps that we can do together that at less cost than we can do, individually. I think there's more out there. I think it just requires us to identify them and think about how to resolve it and to move on it. Kevin?
The last thing I want to add is I'm the vice chair of the Transportation and Public Works committee for NISAC. And I was at the NISAC meeting. This Supervisor Taplin and Amanda was there as well. And I asked during our Transportation and Public Works Committee meeting to amend because they had a resolution going forward through NISAC concerning this and telling New York to basically slow down. But I had an amendment to exempt, since they're exempting emergency vehicles, I had to ask them to exempt municipal vehicles as well. So NISAC passed that resolution. They are to send it to all the counties, and I think that we as Warren County should take that resolution to our board and have them pass it as well to say, you know, make it such that number one, slow down with what you're doing. And number two is give an exemption to municipal vehicles.
And another comment is that, I know that the Johnsburg schools are like, they're being forced to look at electric buses. And there's no way in creation that those electric buses are gonna be able to function in our town, not even close. I can't for the life of me figure out where the hell they get the idea that this is gonna be okay. You wanna strand kids in the winter, I mean, okay, sure. Because that's what's gonna happen.
When you're out there and it's so many degrees below zero, whatever, the last thing you need if you're driving a tandem or a bus, loaded or not, is to have that go out from under you. That can be a serious business. Right then, anyone else have any business to bring before the board?
I've got one more question.
Trainer?
These trucks that you have on order, the price isn't gonna increase because it's taking them so long to get to them.
They already have,
So we have to pay the new increase after we
we've had to
purchase.
pay a new increase after we've encumbered the money, yes.
So what the hell's the sense of a contract then? Seriously,
I
how much have they gone up?
I wanna say the 2022 trucks have gone up now $15,000 to $25,000 a piece.
Well, that just isn't right. That contract
And
includes escalation.
And that's, the problem is that, so, I'll give you an example, what we did is we piggyback off Onondaga because Onondaga had a bid, but Onondaga bid allowed for an escalation, so. When it came to this year, and you can certainly say no, but. The bottom line is they're gonna hold your feet to the fire, or they're gonna take your trucks and say, okay, then you don't wanna pay the escalation, we'll give them to somebody else, so. We this year went into the bid for our trucks for 2024, and I asked Dan and Julie to put out a bid, and we had in it no escalation. You know how many bids I got? Zero. Not
Can't
one.
buy out the wreck, huh?
We tried, we certainly did that with the container trucks or for the solid waste hauling. We were able to put out a bid, and that's what we did with this bid too. We were able to put out a bid to request that you have to have them in stock. Nobody has tandems in stock. We found ones in Canada that had underbelly plows, which we wouldn't use those here.
Mr. Molino?
Well, I'd just like to say Kevin does a great job, keeps us informed, does a lot. The only suggestion I might make is this budget, if you make the print smaller, we could save pages.
Do you need bigger glasses?
Even with glasses, I can't read.
Carol, need magnifying glass. I couldn't read it.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Sabino, second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We